An essential part of any meditation practice is you need to choose the object of awareness, meaning before you begin, you have to work out what are you choosing to place your focus on. So quite often this is the breath. It could also be the palms of your hands. Some people like to use a mantra. Any of these things is a really common object for awareness in a meditation practice. When you're outdoors, though, you have a really big range of stimuli and things to choose from. And my view is that it makes it a lot more of a rounded meditation practice because there is such a range. You get to choose from not only a really big range of stimuli to have your awareness on, but also that in nature your senses become more refined. So you actually have a much richer layer for your awareness to rest upon. And that has some important effects. And even if you do still have an internal focus, because in nature it's like we sort of expand out into what's around us. Even when we turn that focus internally, it's like we're holding ourselves a little bit more lightly, like the boundaries of ourself are a little looser, a little more porous. And so even when your focus is internal, but you're in nature, it's still a different kind of experience. But in this video, I wanted to sort of summarize what the main benefits of having nature as the object of your awareness in a meditation practice can be. And hopefully it'll give you a little bit of inspiration to take your meditation practice beyond sitting on a cushion. So to begin with, range. Because there's such a different range of stimuli to pay attention to, you begin to use your sensing and perceiving apparatus in a broader range of ways, and this has a direct impact on what's happening to your internal state, and that we also do that in a way that's a lot more similar to how we just would normally move through the world. So paying attention to a panoramic big open field view, for example, this will put our mind in a more relaxed state of being, something that we would do quite naturally when we, are standing at a lookout over the ocean, for example. But when we add a meditation practice to that, we can then very deliberately and intentionally encourage this deeper state of relaxation and other things. We're also more likely in nature to be in a position other than sitting. So we might be standing or walking while we do a meditation practice. And this is just more like how we move through the world. So it starts to blur the edges and make integration of your practice. So beyond what your practice is and what the rest of life is, that gap is not so big. So we have this range benefit, as I'm summarizing it as. There's also just the inherent benefits of being in nature. So even if we're not doing a practice per se, there still are a lot of benefits to just simply being in nature that can be measured on the physiological, mental, and emotional level. And they are very similar to the benefits of meditation. So you put the two together and you have this synergistic, exponential kind of effect to the benefits of the practice. Another really important benefit is that sense of connectedness. So rather than kind of having that up and out, like transcending what's existing in our normal reality that we might have with a much more internally focused, withdrawing the senses kind of practice, when we have the beings of nature as our object or objects of awareness, we then cultivate real sense of deep connection. And it's, in my view, it's in quite a literal sense as well. So there's a saying, where the mind goes, the energy flows. So when we're placing our awareness, for example, on the tree in front of us, we're building and building the flow of chi with the tree, as well as just letting awareness rest on it. So it's kind of like we're absorbing the treeness into ourselves, and likewise extending ourself out there into the tree. And so this leads to a felt experience of connection, which is very transformational. We're in a society where loneliness is quite an epidemic, and having this sense of being in relation with all the other non-human beings around us can be quite transformational. There's also a really important benefit that's around what it does to our sense of self. One perspective on what the purpose of meditation is, in the more esoteric sense of the term, it's about getting in touch with the true self, the broad sea of consciousness which is generating the self in me, the self in you. It's all the one self. It's this bigger true self. You might call it source or God, consciousness, whatever you want to call it. But it does lead to this transcendence of the small self, which is very concerned about what I have, what I look like, all these things to do with the ego. But there's this thing when we practice in nature where we can begin to experience ourself as being a part of nature. So that felt experience of being in this vast sea of consciousness then translates to we're being in this vast sea of beingness. And when the boundary of self is not isolated to this one human being, but maybe we experience a sense of self that is fully integrated in the ecosystem that we're in, for example. Personally, I think this is what human beings are designed to be like and what a healthy culture would reflect. But our modern culture, which is very individualistic and separated from nature, does not encourage and does not reinforce this kind of sense of self. And we're trapped in this warped worldview that tells us that we're separate from nature, and then the experience of it reinforces that belief. When we can practice in nature, we can help repair some of that damage that Western culture has done and re-encourage this sense of the ecological self, which then has many flow-on effects for how we think, how we live, what we value, what we're willing to protect. Personally, I think this is one of the most important transformational benefits of this kind of practice and is a real big motivation for me personally in doing this work. And I suppose an extension of that shift in our sense of self, understanding true nature, what's the nature of all things, and we can come to a place where we have a sense of the beingness which is running through all things, and the feeling of a sense of boundaries between different beings dissolves somewhat. Hopefully we get there. An awareness of the inseparability of all beings can arise.